Saigon, April 30th, 1975. You have 72 hours to decide. Stay under communist rule or risk drowning in the South China Sea. Your neighbor is a doctor. 20 years of saving lives. Tonight, he's wrapping paper-thin sheets of gold in fabric. Kim Thanh, gold leaves. He's collapsing his entire life savings into something the size of a deck of cards. The legitimate ferry to Malaysia, $10 per person. The smuggler's dinghy across open water, $1,000 per person. Your family of four needs $4,000 in cash in a currency a criminal will accept, and you have 48 hours. The doctor with the gold leaves. He's boarding the boat. The family with savings locked in a Saigon bank account. Still waiting. 1.5 million Vietnamese fled across the South China Sea using this exact protocol. This isn't fiction. This is documented survival history. Beat. Music fades and low. Here's what nobody says out loud about precious metals. Gold isn't for buying bread during a collapse. It's not for trading cigarettes at checkpoints. It's for the moment when borders close, institutions fail, and you need to move your family across an international boundary with your accumulated life savings intact. The autopsy is complete. The cause of death is always the same, and the survivors always carried the same insurance policy. I'm the fiscal historian. I perform autopsies on dead empires so you see the patterns before they repeat in your backyard. Let's go. Section 1. The Kim Thanh system. The Vietnamese boat people developed one of the most sophisticated escape protocols in modern history, and it was built around Kim Thanh, extraordinarily thin sheets of pure gold, pressed into stacks and wrapped to minimize bulk. Here's the engineering genius. A standard 1 gold bar worth approximately $4,300 at current prices is conspicuous, recognizable, immediately identifiable to any border guard conducting a search. Gold leaves, by contrast, could be stacked thin, wrapped in cloth, flattened into a package no larger than a deck of playing cards. During a cursory inspection, they could be mistaken for aluminum foil. A family could carry thousands of dollars in portable wealth in something weighing virtually nothing. When a guard discovered what appeared to be thin metal sheets, the instinct was low value. Discovery of a recognizable gold bar triggers immediate confiscation. Gold leaves created ambiguity, and in a crisis, ambiguity buys survival. But here's the deeper revelation. These families didn't accumulate gold to spend during the crisis. They accumulated it to cross borders during the crisis and rebuild after. Section 2. The historical pattern. Vienna, 1938. Vienna, 1938. You're a Jewish banker watching the Anschluss unfold. You hold a certificate of deposit worth 50,000 Reichsmarks. Your colleague has 3 diamonds sewn into his coat lining. Guess which one of you reaches Switzerland? The most extensively documented case. Oskar Schindler bribed SS officers with black market goods and gold to secure the release of hundreds of Jewish workers from concentration camps. Those bribes worked because gold and diamonds retained real purchasing power even as systematic genocide was being carried out. The critical element, those bribes could not be refused. They represented value that could be converted to cash or consumed directly. No external authority required. A certificate of deposit from a Vienna bank. That document was either worthless, or worse, it identified the holder as a target. Same pattern, same stages, same outcome. Paper assets that depend on institutional validation evaporate when those institutions become your enemy. Tangible assets that require no external authority maintain value because their physical properties, elemental composition, density, rarity, are universally recognized. Section 3. Contemporary case files. Let's forensically examine what safe passage actually costs in modern conflict zones. Syria, 2015-2016. 1 million Syrians reached Greece in 18 months. The pricing structure was remarkably consistent. Smugglers charged approximately €1,000 per person for a seat in a dinghy, Turkey to Greece. The legitimate ferry ticket, €10, a 10,000% markup, converting a legal journey into an illegal one managed by criminal networks. A Syrian family of 4 needed €4,000. Months, sometimes years, of savings, converted into foreign currency that smugglers would actually accept. Ukraine. February 24, 2022, Russian tanks crossed the border at dawn. 50,000 people fled in the first 48 hours. Banks suspended electronic transfers. ATM is emptied within hours. You have $20,000 in your account, on paper. In practice, you have nothing. One Ukrainian refugee escaped with Bitcoin on a USB drive and a written seed phrase. He sold some to people he personally knew for cash, obtaining roughly $600 in Polish zloty. Bitcoin worked for exactly one documented refugee. Here's why the model breaks. Entirely for digital assets, Bitcoin requires internet connectivity to verify the blockchain, electricity, access to exchanges, fluency in digital security. In a collapsing infrastructure environment, these requirements become impossible to meet simultaneously. Gold requires none of this. And the most telling detail in the Ukrainian Bitcoin case, the refugee didn't stay a Bitcoin holder in Poland. He converted to fiat as rapidly as possible. Even in the most favorable circumstances for cryptocurrency, a tech-savvy refugee from a country with functioning crypto infrastructure, digital assets were treated as an intermediate step toward hard currency. Venezuela. Control. Case. When the bolivar collapsed from 6.3 per dollar in 2013 to over 3,000 per dollar by 2016, inflation reached 4,000% in 2017 alone. $10,000 in savings became worth $250. Venezuelans who held savings in local currency watched their wealth vanish. Those who held gold watched its nominal bolivar value increase substantially and traded it in black markets for US dollars at rates reflecting true international value. Section 4. The denomination problem. This is where most strategies fail. Stay with me here. This is where theory meets ground truth and most people's plans collapse. A 1-ounce gold bar is worth approximately $4,340 at current market prices for a refugee. Bribing a border guard for passage costing $300 to $500. Offering a full 1-ounce bar is massive overpayment, with no practical way to make change. You cannot break a gold bar at a checkpoint. You cannot find a jeweler in a conflict zone at 2 a.m. The optimal denomination is fractional. Specifically, 1 gram, 5 grams, and 10 grams bars. A 1 gram bar, roughly $140 at current gold prices, is small enough to use as a medium of exchange for specific services without complex negotiation. A guard knows the approximate value instantly. No explanation needed. The strategic deployment framework. 1 gram bars gives fuel. Early stage guides. Checkpoint passage. 5 grams minus 10 grams bars gives smugglers. Larger transactions mid-route. Larger denominations gives final transactions in destination country. This structure also provides critical risk distribution. If one cache is discovered and seized, your entire wealth is not lost. Section 5. Why gold works when authority collapses. Here's what the data is telling us. Gold represents value that requires no explanation, no justification, no appeal to external authority. When a border guard encounters a gold coin, they recognize genuine value without any institutional verification. During state collapse, precisely, when exit protocol becomes necessary, the institutional authority that validates paper currency evaporates. Guard from a regime losing a war will not accept that regime's currency. The guard knows the regime may collapse entirely tomorrow, rendering it worthless. Gold transcends any particular regime or political system. A Nazi official in the final days of World War II would refuse a suitcase of Reichsmarks, but might accept gold as a bribe, precisely because gold maintains value across regime changes. One of you commented after my last video, my grandfather, who went through the world wars in Germany, always said you needed enough silver or gold coins to bribe a guard. Your grandfather understood what money actually is when the state becomes your enemy. Section 6. Crossing into safe countries. The legal trap. Now let's talk about what happens when you actually reach a safe country, because this is where most exit protocols fall apart completely. Under the Bank Secrecy Act, anyone entering or leaving the United States with more than $10,000 in currency must file FinCEN Form 105. Here's single quotes S the legal distinction that changes everything. Physical gold, bullion, bars, is not classified as currency under the Bank Secrecy Act. Someone carrying $50,000 worth of gold across the U.S. border does not technically trigger the Form 105 filing requirement. Someone carrying $10,001 in cash does. But here's the trap. Gold is still subject to customs declaration obligations. Failure to declare precious metals accurately results in seizure under civil asset forfeiture statutes. And the procedural mechanics are brutal. When U.S. Customs seizes assets, you have 30 days to respond. For someone who just fled a war zone with no legal representation, no understanding of American legal procedure, and no stable address, this process becomes practically impossible to navigate. The burden of proof falls on you to demonstrate seized assets are not connected to illegal activity. For someone fleeing a conflict zone with gold accumulated through decades of saving, proving legitimate source without access to original bank records becomes extremely difficult. The correct strategy: declare everything at the border. Accept the delays and inquiries. Carry every receipt, invoice, and assay certificate you have. Partial documentation is better than none. Once customs officials discover you attempted concealment, your credibility is destroyed and recovery is nearly impossible. A more sophisticated approach: enter initially, then import metals through legal channels later once you've established residency and can work with legal counsel. Closing: pull back to the pattern. So what do you actually do? 5 elements. 1. Accumulate fractional gold now. Not 1 ounce bars. 1 gram, 5 grams, 10 grams denominations. Purchase small quantities continuously over years, not large quantities suddenly. 2. Distribute across your body during transport. Money belt, pockets, clothing lining. If one location is discovered, not everything is lost. 3. Assume 10 to 30% loss to bribes, seizures, and theft. Accumulate more than you expect to need. 4. Declare all holdings at the destination border. Carry all documentation. Engage legal counsel immediately upon arrival. 5. Understand what this actually is. This is insurance for the worst-case scenario, not for buying bread during collapse, for crossing borders when institutions fail, and preserving accumulated life savings across regime changes. One of you said it perfectly after the last video. Gold isn't for getting you through collapse. It's for setting you up on the other side. Exactly right. The question isn't whether you'll be affected. The question is whether you'll see it coming or be standing at a closed border, wondering why your account shows $20,000 on paper while the ATM is empty. Watching the person next to you with a deck of cards-sized package of gold leaves board the boat to safety. Pattern recognition isn't pessimism. It's preparation. 1.5 million Vietnamese, millions of Jewish refugees, 1 million Syrians, 5.8 million Ukrainians. Same protocol, same asset class, same outcome. Not if you'll need it. When I single quotes am the Fiscal Historian. Subscribe if this gave you a new lens. Drop a comment. I read every single one. Tell me what you want me to dig into next.